Welcome to From Screen to Shelf. My name is Chase. I am one of the three people that make up this wonderful channel. Thank you so much. If this is your very first time joining us, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, again, thank you so much for your support. We are actually going to try something a little bit different to encapsulate everything from screen to shelf. So I just recently watched Twisted Metal Season 1 on Peacock, and I'll tell you how I feel here in just a moment, but I kind of wanted to express some opinions about it and how I felt about it after watching it. And so I talked to the other guys and felt like it might be something kind of cool to go ahead and kind of try and see how you guys like this. You know, with the way that streaming works, I don't know if we'll ever get a physical media release of this. I really do hope once you find out how I feel about this series, that we do get a physical media release. But if we don't, at least my thoughts are out there. So I figured that we might as well go ahead and try and see how you guys like this type of format. So, without further ado, again, my name is Chase, and this is going to be the Twisted Metal Season 1 review. It is streaming exclusively on Peacock. It is a TV show, or season at this point. Season 2 was just announced about a week ago, and that's kind of what made me want to go ahead and check it out. It premiered around the end of June, and they dropped the whole season at that point. It had a budget of about $45 million, and each episode it encapsulates about 10 episodes, runs about 22 minutes, so I think the longest one was about 31, 32. So pretty easily digestible watch. So that's kind of why I ended up watching the first episode, had a great time, and figured I'd go ahead and watch the rest of it. So that's what leads me here. So I got to get this off my chest. I'm a huge Twisted Metal fan. That's one of my favorite games from way back in the day. I loved it, the one on PS3, going all the way back to Twisted Metal Black, going back to 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the PS1 era. And they're just great funs. It's Demolition Derby with a little bit of a story. And how can you get more iconic than Sweet Tooth himself, right? So with that being said, the way that I felt about the series is, as a whole, it was awesome. I had a really good time. It's definitely different, so go into it a little bit open-minded. But I will go ahead and say that on the fun scale, it's an 8 out of 10. And with what they did there, Anthony Mackie, and then her name's escaping me, but she's from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I believe. She plays a character named Quiet. So you follow Anthony Mackie's character of John Doe, who is in one of the games, but Quiet is an OC, an original character in this series, just for this, to kind of give you a little bit of a duology here. At first, I kind of really didn't want to ever check it out because figured if you're going to make a Twisted Metal series, you might as well focus on the main star, Sweet Tooth himself. But I feel like as much as I did want more Sweet Tooth, the way that they did it paid off extremely. It's one of those instances where whenever he shows up, makes a huge impact. His character is really good, a little bit different from the game itself. But the games were never known for their super deep lore. It's all about a tournament, granting a wish from Calypso. And yeah, that's pretty much as deep as the lore goes. They have some like little bios and some of them from like the Asylum files and stuff like that, but there's nothing too deep there. This isn't, Skyrim, this isn't Fallout, this isn't something super deep, this isn't an RPG that this TV show is based off of. I did kind of find it interesting with almost 10 years removed of having a new entry in the series, maybe even over 10 years. I think it was either 2011 or 2013 that was the last one. Found it kind of interesting that this was the one that they decided to go ahead and make a TV show out of, but I'm here to tell you I'm happy that they did. So like I said earlier, on the fun scale, it's an 8 out of 10. I had an absolute blast from the first minute of the first episode to the very end. Now, is it truly faithful to the video games that it's adapting? Not necessarily, but it's still a great time if you go in there a little bit open-minded and you understand that, kind of like what we said in our video game adaptation podcast, that it really works well in a TV show format. And I think it could have done well as a movie, but there was a lot of world building. There's a great story with these characters, with John Doe and Quiet, that really, really had me caring about what happens to them next. And yeah, some good drama, some good comedic tones, especially whenever Sweet Tooth arrives. John Doe is just a crazy, kooky character. The way that Quiet is, just really, really, really fun from beginning to end. So this is going to be, for the most part, spoiler-free and pretty short in that aspect. Some grievances that I did have with it is I don't understand where that $45 million budget went. So if you're going in expecting like the Twisted Metal tournament to be like the beginning and like the whole build up and stuff like that, you don't get that here. It's not until, near the conclusion that you get something that kind of correlates with what you're familiar with the Twisted Metal series. But again, I'm not here to necessarily dog on that aspect because I had a really good, really fun time in that world. The world that they gave me, Anthony Mackie absolutely kills it. He plays, just to give you a little bit of information, he plays somebody with amnesia that really can't remember past a certain part of his childhood onwards. He doesn't really know his family. All he knows is his car, right? Which in Twisted Metal, car culture is really one of the biggest things. It's almost Mad Max-esque in that aspect, where your car is everything, right? It's how you get around, it's how you do this, it's how you defend yourself, and it's how you fight. So he's very attached to his car, and he plays a milkman. So essentially in this world, what that means is he's like a courier of sense, in a sense, right? So he makes deliveries from one town to the other, and they have a very dangerous job because it's a post-apocalyptic world where everybody's fighting for themselves. Once you're outside the city, there's no safety, right? And even whenever you are in the city, there's no safety guaranteed either because of what could be happening inside the city. So he ends up crossing paths with Quiet. So Quiet is somebody that earlier on in the series has something traumatic happen to her, and now she's on her own. So they end up crossing paths, and they don't like each other in the slightest, right? So they really don't like each other in the slightest, but they eventually realize that they work well together, even though they don't get along that well, right? And that's one of the most developmental aspects of the show, is you follow those two people with Sweet Tooth sprinkled in. So those are the main three characters that you get, with him being more or less as like a third leg for Sweet Tooth, right? So if you were curious, if you're gonna get a lot of Sweet Tooth, you get a decent amount of him, surprisingly. I almost thought at one point he was only going to be in one episode and then forgotten about with the way that it was pacing itself. But then he really comes back with a vengeance, and you have a lot of fun with everything that it gives you, right? It gives you the exact Sweet Tooth that you figure that you want and what you're going to get. So that was really, really cool. Now, to go back to what I said about the $45 million budget, is like I said with the tournament, I just really don't know where the budget went for $45 million, and especially for it to be a streaming series, it's just kind of confusing in that aspect, how... I just wish I knew where the budget went a little bit more. You know, it'd be kind of cool to get a physical media release of this with some behind the scene features on this series, because I had a lot of fun with it. You know, for what you got, as loosely based on Twisted Metal as it was, you do get a few of the characters. The main villain is a character from the games itself, from Twisted Metal Black, and I believe he's from 3 and 4 as well. And so, yeah, like you are going to have some familiarity here. This isn't one of those really loose adaptations by name that we got back in like the Ball era with Blood Rain and stuff like that, right? This isn't that at all. This is a really fun, really solid series that I highly recommend you check it out. I think that's as much as I really have to say in a spoiler-free sense. And yeah, it's streaming now on Peacock. All 10 episodes are readily available. So go ahead whenever you have the chance. I can't recommend enough. If you've been slightly curious, you just want to have a fun time, just turn your brain off and just have a good laugh, you're going to laugh every episode. It's a very comedic show with a lot of serious undertones, with a lot of stakes being really, really high, where you really get invested in these characters. So I'm excited for season 2. I'm definitely going to watch that once Anthony Mackie frees up from his Captain America role. They plan on shooting season 2, which I'm super excited for in that aspect. I'm definitely going to watch it whenever all the episodes drop at this point. And I'm really hoping we at the very least get a Blu-ray steelbook of this. So yeah, like I said, it's streaming now on Peacock free. So you can stream on Peacock for free. Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. If you're new to the channel, like I said earlier, thank you so much for joining. It's been a wonderful adventure so far. The year is closing out, and we're super excited for how 2024 is going to look. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next episode.